I get asked about 10 times a day if the BRRRR method will work in someone's specific market. The BRRRR method is a way to buy rental properties using other people's money. The answer to that question is almost always yes. So in this video, I'm going to show you a 5-minute way that you can quickly check to see if the BRRRR method will or won't work in your market. Real estate investing works in any market. Just certain strategies or processes work better in certain markets and don't work in certain markets. Knowing what strategies work and don't work in your market is key to success because you know where to focus your time and energy and where to not focus your time and energy. Before we get rolling, make sure to stay tuned to the end. I'm going to tell you Maisie's joke of the day. Stay tuned to find out what it is. Make sure to backhand that like button, subscribe to this video, and when you subscribe, make sure to scroll to the right and turn on the notifications bell. Scroll like you're scrolling through Tinder so you get notified when we come out with new videos and we go live so you're the first to get access to them. So I was on a phone call about 2 weeks ago with a guy named Jake. He lives in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. He's probably gonna be watching this video. I was on the phone with him and I was signing him up for our Live Rental Academy, which is our academy where we teach people how to grow a rental portfolio without using any of their own money. We built a $25 million rental portfolio here at FasterFreedom between Brian, Lucas, and myself, and we teach everything we know in that academy. So I was on the phone with him answering his questions, and he did not think that Eau Claire, Wisconsin was a good market for the BRRRR strategy. So I walked him through what I'm about to walk you guys through and showed him how he can quickly look and see that, in fact, it's a great market for it. So that kind of call spurred this video. So we're gonna talk about it. I'm gonna explain to you what I explained to him and show that it's a perfect market, and most likely your market's a great market for the BRRRR strategy. So I'm gonna explain the finer points of how to determine it, and then we're going to hop on a computer. I'm going to do a little screen share with you and show you real life how you can analyze a deal. And don't forget to stay tuned to the end to hear that joke. If you need a quick refresher on what the BRRRR method is, like I said earlier, it's a way to buy real estate using other people's money. Check out this video above that goes into detail explaining what the BRRRR method is and how it's so powerful, being able to use other people's money to build a rental portfolio. A quick way to see if something's going to work is look at the 1% rule. Now, most people think they know what the 1% rule is, but there's a little variation that most people don't consider, and Jacob wasn't considering when he was looking at it. This is the first thing he looked at when he looked at his market to see if it would work for the BRRRR method. I have a video up here that explains what the 1% rule is, but I'll talk to you about it right now. The 1% rule is your rent needs to be 1%. Your monthly rent needs to equal 1% of what you have in the property, not what the property is worth fixed up. This is a quick way to see if a property will cash flow or won't cash flow. So if your property is worth $200,000, but you have $160,000 into it because you utilize the BRRRR method, your rent needs to be at least $1,600 a month, 1% of what you have in the property. If you have $200,000 in a property, that's what you have in the property. When you refinance and when you initially start the BRRRR method, the BRRRR strategy, when you start to get it rented, you need to get $2,000 a month of rent for that. If it meets that initial criteria or better, that means there's a good likelihood that it will cash flow, and you can dig in further to see specific deal by specific deal to see how much is going to cash flow and dig into the exact numbers. So to beat that even one more time, if you have $150,000 into a property, you need to get at least $1,500 a month rent. Some markets you can beat that, like here in St. Louis, if I have $110,000 in a property, it's probably going to rent for $1,300 or $1,400. So you can beat that in St. Louis, and most markets in the Midwest and the Southeast, you can beat that. So the BRRRR method, the BRRRR strategy works, like I said earlier in this video, in almost every single market. The few select markets that it doesn't work is usually high density downtown areas where real estate is just ridiculously priced. If you're not in those markets, it'll probably work. So here's a little more detail how you can dig into that a little bit further. Okay, so we got the 1% rule introduced. The next thing you want to look at is the types of area that you want to invest. And this is subjective to a certain degree. So the different types of areas are, and in general, people know there's a little bit of leniency, but in general, there's A, B, C, and D areas. We're not really getting into the F areas. A area is a really, really nice area. There's not many rentals, probably no rentals at all. If a few in that specific neighborhood, they're higher end houses, higher valued houses that have end users living in them, not renters, and there's great appreciation in those markets. Those are a little bit tougher to have the BRRRR method and cash flow. B class areas are nice areas still, good school districts, probably living class areas, but there's a mixture of rentals and homeowners in the same area. It's usually a nice, good, safe area. C-class, you can get the progression we're moving. C-class is working class. It's usually, you know, at least half rentals, half people living in their current houses. The neighborhoods are usually okay. It's usually a pretty safe area. You're just kind of moving down the line. Then when you get to D and even F, it's usually rougher school districts, rougher areas, a little higher crime, and mainly rental type areas. So in your market, you need to decide which area you want to be in. I'm in mainly B-class markets, because B-class areas, because you get appreciation, which means your houses go up in value, and you get a really, really good tenant base of tenants that live there that have good jobs and can afford to pay rent, and it's a nice, clean, safe area where I wouldn't mind living, and where they have the option and choice to live. Now that you know what the 1% rule is, and now that you know what, you know, the probably B or C type area you want to invest in, you can hop on Zillow. Everybody has access to Zillow. I believe it's still the #1 downloaded app in the world, even with TikTok blowing up. So there's a quick way you can search on Zillow. I'm going to talk about it, and then we're going to hop on Zillow and go over a couple markets and show you some real life examples. So what you want to do when you get on Zillow is you're going to want to check the Zestimate of the house, what the house is worth now, what Zillow thinks it's worth. They're usually not 100% accurate. They don't have all the data, but in my experience, they're usually around 10% accurate. So you can kind of figure out at least a roundabout idea what it's worth. And then if you scroll through the details in Zillow, which we'll go over here in a second, you can see what the rent Zestimate or the rent Z estimate is, what the house is rents for. So just in that example, you can see a house is worth $150,000 and it rents for $1,300. Will that work? Yes, it most likely will, because if the house is worth $150,000, if you utilize the BRRRR method, the BRRRR strategy, you're buying at a discount, you'll probably be in that property for $120,000 and you're getting $1,300 a month rent for it. So that beats that 1% rule. Now let's hop on the computer and I'll show you some real life examples. I'll just pick a couple random markets in the country and see if the BRRRR method works there in general. After you realize this, and after you see if the BRRRR market does work in your market in the area you want to be in, there's still more calculations and more due diligence you need to do. In this video up here, I talk about how you buy the houses at a discount, and then also how you run the cash flow numbers. You have to go through this process first to see if it works in your market. Then after that, check out that video, because that will explain for you how to buy and how to run actual cash flow numbers. This way is just a quick glance. Let's hop on the computer. Hello again, good to see you all. Let's go through a couple markets. So I picked Eau Claire, Wisconsin, because this is what I talked to Jake about a couple weeks ago, and this is a perfect example for you guys. So I just looked up Eau Claire, Wisconsin on Zillow, and then I went to Solds up here, not for sale or for rent. I went to Solds because we're talking about purchasing if they work in your market. So, and this is a general good price range for this area. You can look around a little bit and see, you know, a ton of houses and see what kind of the average price range is, you know, basically $100,000 to $150,000. And this perfect example, the first one I clicked on, it's a 2-bed, 1-bath house. So the Zestimate on this house is $130,000, so it's probably worth around that, maybe a little bit more. But in general, you can see what houses, what a 2-1, 1,200 square foot is worth around $130,000. If you're looking at the BRRRR method, the BRRRR strategy, you're going to be in at least 80%, or at the most 80% of that, if not less. So you're going to be all in for around $100,000, maybe a couple grand more for this deal. So we need to make sure this thing rents for at least $1,000 a month, and then we can dig in further and see if it works. So you saw the Zestimate, you click here in Zestimate History Details, you scroll down, it's going to give you the rent Zestimate, which in my opinion is pretty accurate. So there you go. It rents for $1,125, and honestly, we usually can beat, because it's a BRRRR deal, it's a house that's been rehabbed, we can usually beat that by $50 to $75 a month very consistently in our market. So I could easily see this thing renting for $1,150, maybe $1,200 a month, and you'll be all in around $100 a month. So that more than beats that 1% rule. So this is what I talked to Jake about. So just dig in a little bit more, run a few more examples doing what I just showed you, and then at that point you can check out the video I talked about earlier and dig in and get exact cash flow and make sure you're buying it at enough of a discount. But this is a good first example. All right, let's head over to Las Vegas, a little bit higher end market. All right, so here's Las Vegas. I did a little bit of research earlier, and we looked up $100,000 to $500,000, 3-bed, 2-bath. Wanted to look up a simple, entry-level house in that area. Gave us a little bit more of a range, because there is a range in Las Vegas. The first one I clicked on here was a 3.3, 1,500 square foot, perfect example. So let's look at it. It looks like it was sold just a few days ago, honestly, when we're recording this, and it's worth $250,000, probably a little bit more. Let's just go for $250 for now, so we know what it's worth. And it looks like a simple, normal rental type house if you look at the pictures. Now let's look at and hit that Zestimate History and Details and look what it rents for. So this one would need to rent for at least around $200,000, which is about 80% of that $260,000 that it's worth. Because remember, it's what you have into the property. So we're gonna have around $200,000 in this, so it needs to rent for $2,000 a month for it to potentially work. Scroll down and see what it rent for. Look at right there, it rents for $1,450. So this house and this example, it looks like Las Vegas is a little bit harder of a market to make the BRRRR method, the BRRRR strategy work. And I've heard that and I knew that. That's kind of why I picked this market. There are some outskirts around, so if you do a little more research and want to look at some outskirts, and you can pick several houses, but out here, if you get a little farther away from downtown, it potentially does work in Las Vegas, but this is a good way, a good example. Maybe that is an A area or a B, so maybe in Las Vegas you would need to be in that C type area, that little lower end pricing. Just look at the houses, look at what they're worth and what they rent for, and try to beat that 1% rule if possible. So if you've done some research after watching this video and you realize that this does work in your market, make sure to check out this video above. It's an hour and 15-minute video where Lucas and I sit in that corner and talk about how to buy your first rental property using other people's money. It's a completely comprehensive video. We should honestly probably charge $1,000 for it and give it away as a course, but we're giving it away for free here on this YouTube. So go check that out and it'll walk you through the processes of how to buy your first rental property without using any of your own money, if you realize that it works by watching this video. So I promised Maisie joke of the day. Maisie's my 4-year-old daughter and she loves dad jokes. So I'm gonna start implementing jokes of the day in all these videos. So the joke of the day today is a baby snake and a mama snake were slithering along in the forest. The baby snake asked their mom, "Are we poisonous?" The mama snake said, "No, we're not. Why?" Baby snake says, "Good, I just bit my tongue." Get it? Laughing emojis and stuff going through here. All right, awesome. So thanks for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. We come out with great content like this all the time. We are giving a tons of good information. If you got any value out of this video, please make sure to backhand that like button like I said, subscribe and hit that little notification bell so you get notified when our videos come out and we go live and we can interact with you one-on-one. Thanks for watching. Check on the next one.
Good news, you're not wearing blue.
There you go. I did it on purpose today.
What's underneath that shirt?
A t-shirt?
What color is it?
Black.
Oh, double black. Gonna rob a bank tonight or something.
All right.
Everybody will be going, "Oh, that must be the place to go. I'm gonna buy there."
Perfect. Sorry, Jake. All right. I feel like I got a burp. It's a really slow one going up, and it's not even gonna come out. It's just gonna bubble. It's gonna go.